Or do you have it for everybody?
It's for
A
everybody.
wall. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because this is I'm in subscribers only mode.
Yeah.
They have to be subscribed to chat in the chat section.
But they can watch it without doing that.
Yeah. think we're live now. Just give me 1 second. Hello, guys. Can you hear us? Just let me know in the chat. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who showed up for the live. Unfortunately, we don't have Prom with us right now because he's a little busy IRL. So we have Clyde and Bonnie right here with the most asked questions from the community. The engagement is a little less today compared to the other days. We are pumped. All right, so should we begin? Bonnie and Clyde.
Let's do it. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
everybody.
let's do it. So
Ready?
how we have planned this is for the first half we are going to be answering the questions from our Discord community, and at the end of the stream we are going to get some rapid fire questions from the chat. Sounds good? So let's start with the first question. That's for Clyde, and it is from state 630. Is Clyde gonna conquer every single group by moving up the servers, becoming all-time dragon tyrant? And do you see MI6 group still dominating the game in a year from now?
Definitely not in the first piece. I think a few of us are probably going to rest on some of the Flame Dragon Tyrants, but we shall see. But there are too many good kingdoms out there for us to continue to have that sort of success. It's a tough event. It's really taxing. It crushes the heck out of your joiners. People spend gems, they spend speed ups, they spend money. It's tough for anyone to just continue to go at that over and over again. So I would be surprised if our success continues in that event.
Yeah, and the worst part is, just 2 weeks after Flame Dragon, we have KVK event also. So that's just the cherry on top.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. So next question is for Bonnie. How are the things in your new state? Anything that's better or worse than your old state? Any surprises?
Um, Things are different, but I mean that was obviously expected because Kingdom 3 and Kingdom 162 are two completely different personalities. Um, and there's also different levels of competitiveness. So it's just different. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, definitely different. We are learning how the new kingdom is trying to adapt. So the next question is regarding the conquest mode for Clyde, and it's from state 1229. In the first episode, you said Helde can be sacrificed in the first row for the conquest. I need a little bit of more explanation about that and about what heroes are the best lineup, because she was pretty much in the back row for me. I need a little more advanced advice for Conquest from Clyde. Take your time in explaining, please.
Yeah, so I mean, the hard part for Conquest is every level is different. The heroes you're going against are different, and your own lineup based on your gear and how far you've leveled each of the heroes you have at your disposal is quite different. So giving generic advice can be somewhat complicated. The thought process behind Hilde or Petra or others in the front is that you frequently can sacrifice a cavalry hero to the front row, especially in the first, let's call it 3 generations, because the advantage is you can put Amadis in the back row. Amadis has a skill that specifically has him doing 50% more damage when his health is above 50%. And so by having him in the back row, he basically takes a little bit of extra time to take that damage to get below 50%. So for that period of time when he's above it and above it longer, he's doing more damage than he would if he was sitting in the front row getting hit or even annihilated relatively quickly. So that's the purpose behind like me saying Hilde in the front. It's like less of even it being specifically Hilde, and it's much more out like just having a sacrifice in the front row so that you can have Amadis in the back in the first 3 generations. Once you get to the fourth, that strategy becomes a lot less palatable, and definitely by the time you get to Gen 5, you are stacking the Gen 4 and Gen 5 heroes, and you're no longer using anyone from, at least on the infantry side for sure, anyone from those earlier generations. The other thing that makes Hilde a bit better, in my opinion, to go into the back row is that very frequently, especially if you're in a battle where the infantry is dying quite quickly, Hilde's heal can be kind of useless. It can target someone who is either already dead, dying, or but my experience most of the time is by the time the heal went off, both of the front row infantry heroes were dead. And at that point, Hilde's healing no one that's all that useful. So those are all the reasons in terms of why on that front, but it's very specific to the first 3 generations and taking advantage of an omnibus skill.
Right. So there you go. There you have your answer for the Conquest mode. And the next question is for Bonnie. It's from state 1149. What do you think about the fact that most of the free to play players are not being able to make independent decisions on their individual playstyle due to just following the basic drills instructed by the big players of their server?
That depends on what your independent play style as a free to play player is. And I can understand that most of the time you're following whatever your whale tells you to do. Please send whatever joiners, please send whatever formation. Um, and I'm not sure what you mean by play style. I don't know if you mean like, well, if you want, I want to participate in small events, and maybe my whale isn't letting me, or leadership isn't letting me. If that's what you mean, I would say since you are free to play, it would be nice to focus on KVK and maybe just get like minimal uh, uh, points for those small events, just to get the basic rewards, and then keep it to KVK. But that's more of a server thing rather than a whale thing. So you didn't really specify what playstyle you meant, but that's as best as I could answer that.
Yeah, so there you have your answer. The next question is for Clyde, and it's from state 23. Do you think D11s are expensive to maintain for free to play? How free to play and low spenders do the true gold tech? It will be useless just to unlock if I don't have the resource to train and maintain them for every big battle, right?
There is a lot of truth to that. If you are truly free to play and unlocking tier 11, I think the important thing, I mean, there's a couple of factors here. Like the most obvious statement I can make is you really have to make sure that you are super good about not wasting resources outside of events, and that you're always gathering. I would hope you constantly have 4 to 6 gatherers out. I would hope you're getting minimum rewards in the majority of the events, because typically participation awards almost always include resources. And I would also hope you're in a top 1 or top 2 alliance in your server, because one of the easiest ways to keep up on resources is to be in a really good alliance. The other thing I would hope you're doing is getting the 50 rewards for joining terror rallies on a daily basis, and that you're starting 10 terror rallies yourself on a daily basis. All of that being said, to like try to maximize as much as you have in resources. I think the other thing that's sort of important is just making sure that you pick and take the right role in KVK if you do have T11, but you are relatively low on resources. So if you're free to play and you have a couple T11, I'm assuming you probably aren't at this highest true gold level that's there. So you could easily be doing refills, or you could be in a turret. You could be in maybe in like a counter rally or something. It's just far less taxing. I think like KVK and resource taxation really comes hard for those that are trying to refill the castle and end up, bashing their face into the opposition when it gets taken and their refill doesn't make it in time, or they're obviously getting kicked at the same time. That's where it gets like just far more problematic. So I wouldn't say it's useless. Like, these events are won and lost on the quality of joiners. Once both sides have, let's say, whales of like somewhat equal power, and if both sides have good strategy, you do end up with joiners being far and away the biggest difference. I would tell you that was probably the biggest difference when 3 faced 45, when 3 lost to 57, and then 162 just went had their battles against 57 and against 86. And it was also true for the 2 Flame Dragon Tyrants. Like, we really made sure the joiner quality was high enough that it really made a monumental difference. So I'm sure we'll actually probably come back to the joiner quality versus like actual stats a couple of times, because it comes up all the time in chats and Discord and everything else. But yeah, again, I wouldn't say it's useless. I just think you have to have a strategy to maximize gathering, and you have to have a strategy to make sure that you just don't, face plant in the middle of KVK where you can't afford to actually maintain them.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. And if you're a free to play and you have even just a single T11, it's highly recommended that you complete the last research to at least level 5, just to maintain that, and also have a farm account in your state just to cover the expenses for the resources. So the next question is connected to this question, kind of, and it is from state 412. At this point in game, what determines which whale is stronger among opposing kingdoms in KVK and other matches? Island decoration buffs, or is it just purely game intelligence and possibly luck now?
Yeah, so this will probably be the most controversial question that I spend a few minutes on. So, one of my favorite things to see in Discord over and over again, it makes me just laugh sort of hysterically, are the comparisons of my gear against others. Most recently, the common one is, Clyde only has level 20 or level 21 charms, and there are, insert probably 20 whales in the game at this point that have level 22. And when we got to Governor gear a few months ago, very similar. I was sitting at T5 and kind of nursing my way through, and there were a number of people that were at the T6 3-star. You get to a point where, like, those last couple of charms, as an example, each charm is 3%. I want to say 4%. I can't actually remember the number. I have to go look, but it's a couple percentage points on 2 stats. And really, it's a couple percentage points on one stat because one of the stats is useless. So, like, if you do it on infantry, the infantry health stat's great. The infantry attack stack is kind of useless. And when you're at, a high whale level, 4, 5, 6 generations in, and you're buffed with 20% buffs, you're sitting at minimum 2,000, if not up to 3,000% stats. And a lot of folks like to think the biggest difference between, one whale and another, and what makes one whale going to win and another whale not going to win, is that 2 or 3% difference, or that couple charm difference. When you have 9% stats on 3,000% as your denominator, it's a It's a very, very low number in terms of what the actual percentage difference is. So think about that for a second. Like think about, like a charm or two, or a pet or two, or a island piece or two. And then I want you to think about, for those of you that have either gone from TG5 to TG8 or went from T10 to T11, think about how much your bear rally went up in damage. And ask yourself if it went up more than just a couple of percentage points. That's the difference between a few extra charms or an extra, couple levels on an expert or whatever it might be. Or did it go up by a pretty significant percentage? And the answer is going to be it went up by a very significant percentage. And so you end up in this place where joiner quality determines which whale is stronger 9 out of 10 times. Then the garrison heroes that they're using or the joiner heroes that they're using, those things and the ratios all come into play far more earlier than which whale is like marginally stronger. Sure, there's a big difference in stats, like you can't overcome it. But at the very top of the game, as people start to max out and more people max out and more kingdoms have, a number of globes or a number of, close to maxed out folks, there really isn't a big difference between those different things. So you end up in, do you have good joiners? Do your joiners know what they're doing? Can your joiners refill? And are your joiners willing to hit speed ups and like actually refill with time? And then it's definitely a game of like a decent amount of intelligence and strategy and making sure you know what you're doing. And the other thing this game does a very good job at is they introduce a wide range of RNG in all of the outcomes and possibilities. So you can't predict what's going to happen just by pulling out, an abacus and trying to predict, based on numbers and the joiners and everything else, exactly what's going to happen. There is a wide range of outcomes if you run the same rally composition over and over again that will occur. And that's a big piece of it too. So sure, there are things like, charms will make a difference. Island buffs will make a difference. Experts will make a difference in terms of who's stronger on paper, but from a in terms of like opposing kingdoms and KVK being like the nature of that question, it's much more about the strategy, the joiners, and then like the composition, the heroes that you use more than a couple of island pieces.
Right, so there you have your answer. And the next question is for Bonnie. It's from State 570. As a united and KVK focused kingdom, how free to play and low spenders keep playing the game and have them enjoy it?
So in Kingdom 3, we started this thing in our Discord a few months into the game, where we would basically we called it a bit of an academy, and we still have it. But we started a thread for everyone that wanted to ask questions like, what gear do I improve? What do I upgrade? What would make sense? And then either the R4s or Clyde would kind of go in and just kind of give them a breakdown of everything and why it's important and why you should do this according to the materials they had, and also according to their roles. So that has helped a lot of players realize, okay, so this is why I have to do this, and understanding why things work the way they work really does help a free-to-play player understand the game, and then they realize, okay, now I have a goal, and it keeps them going, not understanding some of the mechanics of the game, rather than just upgrading haphazardly because you don't know what you're doing. So that has been a really good tool we've been using for a while. For all of our players, they can come in. We start a private thread for them, and they kind of ask whatever they want regarding their gear. So that has been a good one. We've also not made rules regarding bear. I know that there's a lot of people that are say, well, you can only send this specific march and that's it and nothing else, or for their own personal rallies. And what we tell them is we give them ideas of what they can do, and they can figure out what works for them, because we always tell them what works for us may not work for you. So, because it depends on your research, what heroes you've upgraded, what heroes you haven't upgraded. So, because this is a strategy game, we try to help them figure out their own strategy. so that they can be motivated.
So basically, like teach the free-to-play players how to like play the game and what works the best for them, and just have them figure out it by themselves most of the time. So the next question is for Clyde more specifically, and it's from state 801. The question goes, how do you decide to assign players to AC? Like sometimes players with weaker power win against someone with higher, as the stats are better, and sometimes even when both of your opponents lane has similar power, you win with like 10 remaining, and sometimes you lose with even higher power.
So there's a few different things here. One, I'll just say it directly. There is a massive amount of RNG, and that, for those that don't know, random number generator basically just means luck or a wide range of possibilities when a battle happens that you can't control. We had one, I want to say last week, before, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, was before the expert came out that permitted, that it basically gave stats. And it was watching 57 against 86. It was DD against Iron Horse. Both had max pets, both had max charms, both had max governor gear, both had max heroes, both have the exact same Flame Dragon Tyrant Island pieces, both have maxed islands in terms of the island stats. So on paper, they are exactly the same. And one of them, I don't remember which one it was, but one of them beat the other and beat them soundly, like beat them badly, where, one player had over 100,000 surviving troops. Like that's not, there's nothing you can do about that. That's not a, like, someone's composition was better. That's just a, like, the luck of how the hero skills worked. Did really well for one and really poorly for the other. I think this is less about like individuals, and it's much more also about like your alliance's strategy and sort of like the guidance you give them on what ratios they use, what heroes they use, and sort of like how they build their like basically how they build their heroes and their gear over time. We do a decent amount of research in Alliance Championship. We know like what our opponents have done in the past. We know what their tendencies are. We look at past matches, and we effectively make changes every single time. And we use a lot of, honestly, just like statistical analysis to come up with what our composition is going to look like. Sometimes the statistical analysis is just like, what's the lowest chance of us losing? Sometimes it's like taking a chance to win. It just depends on the matchup and where we are that week. So I hope that sort of answers that question. But there's a lot that goes into like, sort of picking it out. The other thing I'll say too is like this is being really good at Alliance Championship is one where like you have to have the entire alliance behind you. It has to be something everybody sort of cares about. People need to join after they use pets. They need to join with buffs. Hopefully what you've got is every other week people join after they do Eternity, so they have at least some buffs on and pets on. And then in the off week, you're trying to get folks to do it potentially after a bear rally or something, or even maybe even having 20s after Swordland, when that's still when those still haven't worn off yet. So lots of options there, but if you get more people to join with buffs and with pets on, you'll also increase your odds a ton as well.
All right. So the next question is for Bonnie, and it's for Clyde too, because he's the one who is mostly communicating all the strategies and everything for us. So it's from State 1657. And the question goes, how do you keep the consistency and how clear are your communications throughout the events? Example, many people join events and probably on voice chat, many people talk at once. How do you guys do it? How do you guys manage the communication part of the game while in events?
Well, before we get on voice chat, we usually have one person that is in charge of communications, and usually, like for a KVK or a tyrant, it will usually be Clyde because he knows where to guide us, where to tell us to go. Basically, we do have a few others that basically tell us when rallies are going to start, or like from the opposing team. For Tyrant, we have somebody telling us how much garrison we have. Most of them sound like auctioneers, but they're great. And so that part really does help when people are talking all at once. That's when Clyde chimes in. And what do you tell them?
Oh, you can take that.
So usually he just tells them, shut up. And everybody just kind of quiets, or like communications have to be clear. And everybody just quiets, and we move on. But yeah, that's usually how we keep everybody quiet. Most of the time, it's actually pretty quiet, and our voice chats are pretty chill. Even if we're losing a battle, everybody's pretty chill. There's no frustration. Nobody's insulting anybody. It's a game at the end of the day. But there's none of that. So it just depends on how you handle it. We just have a few people that already know their roles, and they do it very well. And that's what we do every battle.
Yeah, and the clashes that happen while in communication, that they are mostly just for the calls, like different people trying to help with the communication, and yeah, we have to control the communications that way. Also, the like you said, Bonnie, uh, trying to keep your calm while you're losing a battle, it's really really important, because if you lose your calm and you get overwhelmed with information and overwhelmed with the fact that you're losing, you can't strategize better at that point. So yeah, that's the thing. um the next question is for Clyde, and it's from state 319. The question is, please give your point of view on what the best genres in offensive rally slash garrison, and how players can test it themselves, since at least for offense there seems to be multiple different answers.
All right, I'm going to take sort of the short version of this answer. Generally speaking, what you're going to find is mixing heroes and mixing stats is better than stacking one stat. The game rewards that mixture better in its damage formula. So just to say that first part straight up. In terms of how players can test it themselves, there are multiple ways to run tests. I like versions where you don't have to call 5-minute rallies because that just takes a really long time. I also like versions where things are relatively static. I think there's a lot of schools of thought here. Some people will tell you like don't use heroes or only use blue heroes because that sort of takes a variable away. I appreciate that, and statistically there is some accuracy to it. I do also want to make the tests about as real world as I can. So if we're testing an attack formation as an example, I'm testing it not against blue heroes or against no heroes. I'm testing against what is the most like common defenses I've seen, or the defense that I saw a kingdom potentially used in a previous KVK. Because while I know there's going to be a lot of RNG involved on both sides, I'm trying to create an offensive ratio and an offensive set of heroes and an offensive set of joiners to bust through their specific defense, not to find like this generic mythical best in class strategy that like may never actually be appropriate or applicable. And I would tell you the same thing, when you think about it in the opposite direction on defense, is like I'm going to test against, like if we're testing defensive heroes, I'm going to test it against the most common offensive heroes and the most common offensive complexes I've seen, because I'm not testing a 60-40 on defense against a bunch of blues. I'm testing how well they hold up against someone like Yang, who is pretty damn OP in this game. So I think that's one big piece. I know there's differences of opinions on it, but I'm testing it not against like a best in class mythical. I'm testing against what I think I'm going to go up against in the real world. I believe in doing at least like 5 or 6 times when you're going to test out and looking at just survivors. I also believe in trying to have the defense always be a little bit stronger because that's typically what you're going to see. When you battle in KVK, the game always biases a bit towards defense. So like you sort of want your offenses to fail, and you're kind of, figuring out how much they fail by is the big question there. And then I think the other like sort of piece to just some of that testing is you. It's the best way of saying this. You have to. You also have to do it with like the right, like actual like same joiner heroes, or not joiner heroes, same joiner troops that you're going to be going against as well. I've seen a number of people that will test against like T6s, which like works super well for like figuring out the damage formula and doing some like bear theory crafting. But for KVK rallies, I think that one's kind of tough. So I know that's the best way I can say it. The one last comment I'll make is when you're doing it and you're figuring out your defense, the only thing I would caution anyone on that like actually gets seriously into it is don't always just look at averages. Sometimes you need to look at the full range of what the possibilities looked like. So I'll give you the best example that I can think of. If you're testing defense and you have one defense where you have, let's say, on average, 7,000 survivors because you're using a small number of troops. But the range goes anywhere from 3,000 survivors to 10,000 survivors. And you have a second defense that is only 6,000 survivors. So on the average, it looks worse. But the range is actually from 4,500 to 8,000. I would tell you you should be using the second one on defense because you don't care how many are actually left in your garrison when you survive a hit. What you care about is not getting knocked out. So what you actually care about is what happens in the lowest end, because those are the times you get your butt knocked out. And the difference between like one or two extra knockouts or one or two extra holds is oftentimes in a close KVK, which one wins or loses. So I know those are a couple thoughts on testing, but that's a topic you could talk about for probably hours.
Just like one thing on testing, if you want to do a testing with a rally and you don't want to start 5-minute rallies, if you got an outpost that hasn't been locked down, go to an outpost and do it there. Get two of your alliances at touch. Put put your whale in one, put your players in another, and that's the best way. But one of the best ways. I think that's it. That's all I wanted to add.
So that just basically revealed most of our testing strategy. So the next question is for Bonnie, and it's from state 1360. What are the things to consider to make a decision if you're going to leave your kingdom or put the effort into recruiting players from other kingdom? I mean, as a group decision, not just as a single person.
I guess I'll separate the question in two. If you're going to leave your kingdom, if you're going to make that decision, you got to look for a kingdom that matches your play style, how competitive you are. I know that the first thing people think about is what are the bear times. You ask Clyde that, he would say, "Okay, you shouldn't come here because I don't care about bear." But if you ask, I guess just depends on what your play style is, how competitive you are, how that kingdom that you're planning to go to is doing in the events that you're planning to go to. I do have, when it comes to going into another kingdom, make sure that you ask a lot of questions, tons of questions, so that you know whether it matches how you play or not play, especially as a group. And then the other question was the effort to recruit players from other kingdoms. That will depend on the player itself. Like some players have a certain reputation. Like if they're known to burn down a kingdom, maybe ask the reason why. Sometimes it's valid, sometimes it's not very valid. See what kind of player they are when it comes to events. Are they at events? Some people say, well, I'm active, but active to them means they're just logging in to do just some dailies and then they leave. To me, that's not active. That just means you're casual. You come in, you do a daily, and you farm. Active to me means you're at events. Um, I know that sometimes life happens and you can't make them all, and that's fine. But for the most part, you're there. That's active. So that would be one of the things I look for in a player to recruit.
Okay, so there you have your answer on how to find a state and to recruit players for your kingdom. So the next question is for Clyde. Um, what do you think is the best approach to castle battle? Make one alliance to fight from, or use two alliance to split power between more players?
I'm looking at the kingdom number in this one, 1413. I'm assuming they probably had 2 to 3 KVKs somewhere in there. Um, the answer is going to be always make at least two, and you want them relatively full. You don't go to a third until you have basically filled them up. But one alliance against a kingdom that knows what they're doing, if that's all you have, they will just bounce you back and forth and you will never stand a chance. So it's always at least two. The question is not one or two, the question is two or more, and that then depends on a variety of other factors.
Okay, so the next question is again for Clyde and is from state 863. We are in generation 4. Is 60-40 still the best castle garrison? If yes, will 50-0-50 work against it, or should we try 50-10-40? Should you compare War Academy before getting. Sorry, should you complete War Academy before getting TG6?
So two of these are really easy. In Gen 4, 60-40 still the best castle garrison? Effectively, yes, is the short answer to that question. You could argue 62-38 or some, you get a little bit exotic on the exactness there. But yeah, 60-40 is the best in Gen 4 from basically everything that I've seen. And then should you complete War Academy before getting TG6? The answer in that one is almost certainly no. You should not complete War Academy before getting TG6. The move from 5 to 6 is actually relatively low in cost for True Gold compared to what making some of the more significant moves in the War Academy is. So I would, in almost no circumstance, recommend anyone do that. The two that are more controversial is if 60-40 is good, does that mean 505 or 514 works best against it? I will say not in my testing. I have seen quite a few others that seem to believe that and have tested with it, and it does not mean that they are wrong or off. But I've seen that it is relatively like just less effective than a few other ratios. The thing that I think you're kind of onto there is stacking of like still having decent infantry and stacking a slightly heavier archer formation is a bit more useful against a 60-40. So you can try to melt down the infantry there. Look, I know I said this in the first time that we went through this, which is like the real answer in beating 60-40 is just bring enough good rallies that it doesn't really matter, because the last thing you want to do is like be relying on a 5 or 10% difference in your cavalry or archers for whether you fail or succeed. So also you just got to make sure you have enough power and you brought enough rallies.
Right, so the next question is for Bonnie and it's from state 777. When Clyde and Bonnie were playing WS, did they learn all the formation from WS and put it into Kingshot, like the 50-20-30 formation? And also, what state and power did Clyde and Bonnie had before they quit WS before going to Kingshot? So this is a little personal question, and if you guys would like to skip this question, it's completely fine.
The second question is classified. The first question, where it talks about where did we learn the formations, I learned it in Whiteout Survival. Clyde has been playing games longer than I have, so you probably already knew all of it. Did you?
To a degree, yes. Most
There
of
we
it
go.
for me, I learned from testing.
So just some of it we knew because we've seen it, done it for a few years in WS, but he knew it from before that. So
Okay. So there you have your answer. The next question is for Clyde, and it's from state 1079. Um, you all have played two Flame Dragon Tyrants now and won both. What are your thoughts on how they have gone? Do you like it?
So they've obviously gone well enough that we've been successful in each of them. I think most people would probably agree with this statement. The event itself is fun. I don't know of a lot of people that like don't enjoy it. When you then weigh in how much you spent on it in terms of gems, speed ups, even burning upgrades so you have nothing for KVK points later because you want to go in, not with charm upgrades that you're saving for 2 more weeks, so you're trying to go in as strong as possible. I think when you then factor all of those pieces in, and the resource drain, it's a massive, billions and billions in resources for healing your troops. At that point, I would tell you that like it's probably a little bit less fun and exciting. Like the event itself is great, but there's definitely like a big trade-off between those. So I like it. I actually enjoy the strategy for it. I think, for anyone that's watched the 4 total battles that have happened, you probably looked at it and just thought, some powerful kingdoms just kind of walked in and, demolished everybody. But there's really a lot more that goes into doing it and doing it well. And that part's pretty fun to plan for and execute on, especially with only 60 players. I think that's a pretty unique feature to it.
Yeah. A misconception is that people think Flame Dragon is just throw all the money that you have for this event and you're going to win it. But there's actually a lot of strategy that is involved, and we had a long list of strategy and what we are going to do in Flame Dragon before we went into the Flame Dragon Tyrant event, even for our first and our second Flame Dragon Tyrants. And it's actually quite rewarding for the free to play low spenders and mid spenders, because just because of the amount of charms you get from the personal rankings and the amount of stuff you get from the shop that comes during the prep phase of this event. So yeah, the next question, it's for Bonnie, and it's from the same person from state 1079. How do you strategize in an event to that level, and what is the actual point of kingdom banding together? Is this a key part to the strategy?
um, how do you strategize? For me, I like starting like I already know like when the next one is coming. The next one is July 5th. So from like a week or two before the event, I start asking, "Are you available?" So, and the reason why is because before that, I need to have 60 people that can be there for the entire event. Hopefully, it's the ones with TG8, T11s, or at least TG8. And I do it way beforehand. So it takes a lot of planning. You also want to see, who's going to be in an area, who's going to be in the middle. I was about to say Spire because WOS. So that takes for me it takes a few weeks because I kind of like to be ready. And things come up and it's easy for you to replace somebody rather than if you're doing it last minute. So that's my planning always starts way before. Then it says the actual point of kingdoms banding together. This has been done in WS as well, except here I didn't see it a whole lot in the first Tyrant in WS because people were still trying to get their feet wet and they weren't even sure how to play the game. The event altogether. So I was kind of surprised that it even happened here from the moment it started, because most of you had not played it, so you weren't sure how to do it. But it is something that is done in WS, and it's not a key strategy for us. It's a key strategy if you think you can't win. So you're trying to find as much help as possible because you probably think you don't stand a chance. The other thing that you could use is you could use your different alliances that are also registering within the same state to help you get like seats for the event, since it's you want to be as close to the front as possible and as close to your area as possible. So you want to grab seats that are very close. So that could be a strategy that you could use for other alliances if they don't care about winning. But it is an event that people sort of band together. But we've only ever seen it if an alliance or a server believes they don't stand a chance.
To the people who are asking questions in the chat, we can keep the questions to the last because currently we are answering the questions from our Discord, and the link is in the description if you have not joined already. So the next question, it was for Prometheus, but since he's not here, Clyde can help us answer this question. So it's from State 756. What is the best strategy for Alliance Championship? I usually check enemies' last lane history based on if they are changing lanes. I predict where they move their lines to win our lines, so I switch lines according to it. If this is wrong way, then please give some advice on Alliance Championship.
Sorry, all of that is right in terms of like what to do. I'll make a couple of ads here, and then I'll just say like there's just a lot of guessing involved. And if you have history, you generally match up with the same people on a regular basis. So like you want to be paying attention for weeks and months at a time to like sort of understand people's and other alliances, just strategies and what they do. But I would tell you, if you are like, you want to check the power. If you are vastly outpowered, especially like significantly outpowered, I would actually tank it if I were in that alliance, and I would try to lose 2-1 instead of trying to lose 3-0. Because the difference in how you finish the week with a 2-1 loss versus taking one 0-3 goose egg is pretty dramatic. So sometimes you're just going to go against someone who's just way stronger, and you don't really stand a chance. And there's nothing wrong with actually admitting defeat on that front and saying like, I would rather make sure I lose 1-2 as opposed to 0-3. I think in the exact opposite, when you have a decent amount of power above the other alliance, there are instances when if you get too cute predicting, you could actually lose 1-2, even though they're way, way stronger. And so there are times you have to ask yourself, like, are there formations where it's almost impossible for them to beat us 2-1, and what would that look like? Sometimes equalizing can do that. Because they can't put together more than 2 lanes. They could beat like 2 of your equalized lanes, and then you're in a really good shape. So I don't know, this it's tough because there's so much that goes into it, and there's a lot of history that goes into it, and depending on like the power that you have versus your opponent, depending on where you are for the week, like a lot goes into it. So probably the best I can say there, but best of luck 756 on figuring that out.
Yeah, I also wanted to add a question here. As you know, in Alliance Championship, it's usually a few alliances that are repeated against your opponents. So, does having a record of history on how they switch lanes in Alliance Championship also help in deciding whether you should switch your lanes or not?
It definitely does. There are times when the history is useless because you're going against a sophisticated opponent who is used doing sort of the same thing, and they're taking a lot of, they're constantly changing everything from changing lanes to even changing formations. And then you have others where it's like they never change lanes, or they change lanes, but they always do 1 strong and 2 weak, or 2 strong and 1 weak. So like if you know those tendencies, you can definitely make better decisions because you're going against a smaller range of possibilities. And so if you do like actual probability planning against a pretty fixed group of possibilities, i.e., maybe someone always does 2 strong and 1 weak, then it's actually very, very useful.
Right. So the next question is for Bonnie. It's from State 1000. It's the same transfer event question. Do you have any tips for transfer events? How should a kingdom decide who to take in, who to take not? Especially since there are many unknown elements, could you also elaborate on how your transfer process was to 162 and what's going on behind the scenes? And what was going on behind the scenes?
On who to take in, I think I answered it before, but like try to see who's active in events. If you take somebody that says they're active, but then they come in and they just do dailies, it it'll be a liability to your alliance because now you have someone that is part of your alliance, but they're not taking part in events. They're not helping you win a KVK. So that to me is very important. As far as who, could you elaborate on the transfer process for 162 was like? So the transfer process for 162 was a little bit in a hurry because obviously the groups were changed. So it was a lot of fast things happening that took place. So that's one of the things that was going on behind the scenes. It was a fast decision because obviously our group changed. And some of the things that went into it was a lot of talking, a lot of figuring out where to go, how many people to take. So all of that was something that we all discussed as our force, on who to give an invite to, who to, and we were trying to make sure because remember we were in K3 and K3 was kind of like stuck in 1 through 6 where we couldn't have anybody come in. We couldn't restock basically on players if anyone quit. So we were trying to get as many out of the K3 jail, so to speak. So what we did was obviously we can't take our entire alliance of 80 to 90 people that we had. So we had them all transfer to nearby servers if they couldn't come, so they could jump in next time. So, but the goal was to get everybody out. That was what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, the thing that you just said that if the state is already full and you have a group transferring with you, the best possible way of transferring would be to transfer them to a nearby state in phase 3 and then get them to your state in the next following transfer. So the next question is for Clyde again. It's regarding the heroes testing from state 279. What when testing do you feel is the most valuable and the highest priority to test heroes, formations, or battle strategies? Example, timings, counters, and etc.
When new heroes come out, the answer is always heroes because you're just working with a brand new set of circumstances. Formations, you always have priors on, but the formations change as the heroes change. But you sort of have starting points, and you kind of adjust them based on the heroes that are coming out, and you obviously look at their skills, and you kind of make some predictions on what might be the best thing to test based on how those skills line up. I mean, those are the two biggest pieces. We don't like test for battle strategies or timing or counters. Like that's all. I don't think that's a test thing. That's more of a planning thing and an execution thing than a like. We don't go show up somewhere and it's like, okay, let's practice. All hitting the rally button at the same time. that part never happens.
So the next question is for Bonnie, and it's from State 277. Is Clyde the mastermind behind the battles, or is it Bonnie?
All Clyde, all of it, 100%. I am just literally the secretary who basically puts down the plan that he has come up with and then hands it to the rest of the players. But Clyde is the mastermind.
All right. So the next question. Mm-hmm. You wanted to add anything, Clyde?
Go ahead. No, she's definitely underplaying her value there, but we'll let that go.
Yeah. Bonnie does a lot behind the scenes, by the way. Like delivering the strategy and everything. Getting the people together for the strategy. And a lot that goes right after you build a strategy. She does all that behind the scenes. So the next question is from State 1101. Can you give a generalized summary on the communications you give before these events with your alliance, or some of the strategies you guys utilize in going into these events? And the events are Swordland Showdown, Tri-Alliance Clash, Battles, and etc.
So, communication wise, we do some over Discord while we're playing. And we'll obviously call out buildings and talk through where rallies are coming in and everything else. But I mean, the biggest thing in Swordland is relatively fixed. There's only one alliance you're going against and not two. And there's only so many ways to score points. So a big part of that is just having teams and having people assigned to buildings and ensuring everyone knows their role. There's a countless number of strategies in Swordland that can work. But if you have everybody just sort of doing their own thing, or 10 people just sort of willy-nilly doing their own thing, or a few folks that just only want to go out and burn other cities and aren't actually paying attention to the objectives, then Swordland becomes far more complicated. So, I mean, the biggest thing there is people just have to know their role, more so than like the actual strategy itself. Tri-Alliance is actually more about, do people understand what to do as the battle changes, and do they understand what their role is based on being either a whale, being someone who's like mid-level power, or someone who is probably going to lose more battles than they win. Like every player is actually important in Tri-Alliance in that battle when it's like that, but like you can also have a spot where like your lower level players actually get in the way of your whales and end up working against them. So like they have to know what they're doing as well. In Tri-Alliance, having some sort of assignments, at least on a high level, helps, so folks know what side to go to, and then you do have to call out a number of things in Discord and sort of adjust it over time. So that's the generalized, I'd say, summary and communication. I would tell you it's much more about people knowing their role than it is about like, a very special strategy that happens.
Okay, so the next question is again for Clyde. How did you meet Supe and Bonnie? Have you ever thought of leaving Kingshot? What are the future plans for the game?
So Bonnie and I go way back at this point now, several years. And yes, to some of the questions in the chat, we are. And she is wonderful and lovely. And then Soup, we met by happenstance in Kingdom 3. He joined same server, and we ended up in the same alliance probably by like day 5 or day 10 or somewhere in there. But relatively in those first couple of days, it seemed like. And we've been at it as an alliance with a number of the other folks you see ever since.
Yep, that's right. So the give me 1 second, please. Okay, so the next question is from State 1529. We are an unbeatable kingdom in KVK, 3 wins in prep battle. What is the idea behind Gen 4 cavalry meta, and how could it affect our future upcoming battles?
The idea behind it is that cavalry will start doing, they do extra attacks, and those extra attacks melt the archers that are coming at you in attack. So that's sort of like one of the main like births of the 60-40 defense is you end up with cavalry hitting not only the infantry but actually taking out some of the archers that then reduce the archer ability to hit the front lines. How that could affect is that's basically the first generation where defense starts to get a slight advantage on hero and on ratio versus offense. So in the first three generations, like Amadeus sort of gives offense a very clear advantage because of his offensive widget. As the generations go on and Amadeus's stats start to lag behind, and then as you create the 60-40 defense, you get to a spot where like that kind of flips in Gen 4. My opinion on that front, but I think Gen 4 is where the natural advantage, all things being equal, flips to defense versus offense. So that's how it can affect battles. If you've been winning by, just having one whale or being the strongest, if you've never had the time rallies before, if you've never had to like think about how to do counters, all those things really start to come into play much more so in Gen 4.
So the next question is for Bonnie, and it's from State 1391. How do you guys go about organizing everything?
By you guys,
Um,
Supe means
From
that starts with a really organized server. Discord server, um, and everybody having a role. I think we started doing that since day one in Kingdom 3. So we started having a spot for every event so that everybody knew where to look for it. We could also, at least the way I have our Discord set up, so that everybody can look at the event, but also look at past events. Um, so like for example, for like Swordland, we have, I believe it's Skatero. Skatero, right? Not Panda. I believe it's Katero who does our Swordland, and he kind of organizes a map for everybody, so everybody knows where to go, and who our roamers will be, which that also changes. Uh, who our gatherers will be, and then Panda does our Tri Alliance, and he also basically draws a map out for everybody where you go, even after like zones open, so that everybody kind of has an idea of what to do. So that does help. Um, Everybody having a role, knowing what to do, and being very organized so that everybody can look for stuff easily, that actually helps.
Yeah, we have the roles distributed for our R4 since the day one while we were in Kingdom 3. And actually, I might be the most useless R4 out of all, Bonnie. Am I right?
No, he's really good at bots. Not Kingshot bots, like Discord bots. Like he's really good at programs and things like that, and any kind of IT or anything. Supe is the guy.
Yeah, I have a IT background, you can say. So the next question is from State 447, and it just goes straight to tell me your secret strategy, one that is so effective that no matter how formidable and undefeated a kingdom we face, we can still defeat them. And it should be a strategy that would even allow us to achieve victory against server 162.
Recruit Clyde.
well, with a facetious question, I can give a facetious answer. Beat me into castle when it opens, or beat me into the Flame Dragon Palace when it opens and get there faster. And then you'll get more time at the start, and that'll give you the minutes you need at the end to win.
Oh yeah, people underestimate how much the first occupation gives you. because sometimes it's the make or break thing at the end of the event. Um, so the next question is from State 1105. And the question is it advisable to build a super kingdom composed of many top players and mid spenders through recruitment? If yes, how can this be managed effectively? And if not, what's the reason against it?
There's layers to this. I'll try to hit them relatively quickly. The problem with having a lot of high spenders is you may have a lot of strong opinions, a lot of strong egos, a lot of people that all want to be in charge. And that can be very difficult to organize and coordinate. It can actually be more disruptive than just having the extra power that's there. So, like for me, if you're going to try to create a super kingdom, you need to create one where you have very clear delineation of like what the roles are and who's doing what, and you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen or too many people who basically all want to call the shots. That's one thing that like whales from different servers, if you're bringing them in, they're all used to is they're probably used to being the top person in their alliance or the top person in their server. And if all of a sudden they're a joiner for 80% of KVK or they're sitting on a turret, they might not like that. And it just might make them like very uncomfortable. The other thing that can happen is it's like great to have, like at 401, like it's great to have, 10, 20, 25, whatever black holes. But if you have a whole bunch of free to play players joining those rallies, like it doesn't matter because your fill is crap. And it's going to be somewhat tough. So like you need balance, like you need enough whales to go win like big battles. But I think you can actually look at, a 57 as a good example of one where like there's quite a few like strong players that are there, but then they also pack it in with a lot of joiners and they're able to fill their rallies and make the most of it. So I I mean, yeah, it's nice to have one, but it doesn't matter if no one's cooperating.
Yeah, join us at
And
the.
if you have like
Mm-hmm.
if you have a server like 401, it does work, but those voids have to be ready to become joiners because not every void is created equal. And we hope everyone already knows that just because you have a void, that means nothing. So if the voids are humble enough to be like, oh yeah, okay, I want to join a winning team, and it's okay for me to be a joiner, even though I have a void, then it will work very well. If they have a void but they want to be the main person, it probably won't work. So it just depends on how the state works. As the game continues, there will be more voids, and the success of that will depend on how that void feels about being a joiner.
100%. That's true. So the next question is for Bonnie, and it's from State 414. What's the most effective way to communicate and execute detailed battle plans without overwhelming players so that both whales and regular joiners clearly understand timings, responsibilities, formations, and reactions during fast paced fights like Tyrant and Castle battles?
Probably voice chat. That is the best way. You can put a plan up, like you can plan things in Tyrant like we did, but it shifted. A lot of it shifted because you don't know what the other kingdoms are going to do until you get there. KVK battles are also constantly shifting. We might have a plan in place, but then it has to move around. So we usually never stick to the plan because otherwise we would lose. So we're constantly moving things around, and the voice chat is the best way to do that because you cannot type that up, wait for somebody to respond. That time that you're doing that is now losing time in that castle or in that tyrant. So voice chat is the best option.
All right. So the next question is from State 473. What are your opinions between the development of Kingshot and Whiteout Survival? I didn't play Whiteout Survival, so it would be interesting to hear how the metas and speed of upgrades have changed between both of the games, and your opinions on if Kingshot will stick to the following the same path as Whiteout Survival.
I mean, they definitely seem to be sticking to the same plan. Uh, I mean, the biggest challenge when they have a full playbook is things are coming out faster, which just makes it sort of harder to keep up with, and there's a lot more happening. So, experts is a good example. Like, you know, experts didn't even come up for Whiteout for like 2 years. So they came out much faster here, and you've seen that with everything. Even Flame Dragon, sort of same thing. Like the first Flame Dragon didn't happen in Whiteout. It took a lot longer before it came here. I mean, the one nice part is they are changing all the hero skills. They seem to be doing that as they go, and so they are creating some like differences in the metas. I think what I've noticed, which is actually a good thing, because this is where Whiteout got themselves into a lot of trouble, is they seem to be favoring defense a little bit less and favoring offense a little bit more. Now, I know I said earlier defense like has an advantage. That is still true. In Whiteout, you got to a point where a maxed whale with pets on required some pretty heavy artillery to go knock them out. And you would see kingdoms that like, even to Supe's point of like who gets in first, like stuff like that would matter a lot because just knocking them out was taxing, and it would take all of the whales to be able to do that, and you wouldn't even have counter rallies set up because you had to use all your power. So this game, I think, has done a better job of making sure that um, people don't sit on defense nearly as long as they could. That's probably the biggest difference in the metas.
Okay, so the next question is from State 315. What is something about high level King Shot players that casual players would never understand until they reach the top levels themselves?
I mean, the probably most obvious answer is that like there is while obviously money equals stats equals making some things quite a bit easier, there is a significant difference in skill between your top whales and we'll call it your bottom whales. And I think a lot of people think the whales that win are good because they spent money, and you see it constantly. Like everyone's got such a money issue in this game. How much money did this person spend? Wallet versus wallet, credit card versus credit card. Like all those stupid jokes come out. It's like it's sort of honestly, it's like sort of like a disgusting part of just like society in general that like people get that uncomfortable with someone else and how they spend their money. Um, but there's just more to it. There's more skill than you would think, and a really good whale can carry a KVK. They can carry a Swordland. They can carry a Tri Alliance. They can do exceptionally well in an Eternity, and I don't. I think a lot of casual players just don't believe that. But there's like if you play at the sort of like top levels and against some of the top alliances, like you see it, you see the difference in the skill, and it's pretty obvious when you go against someone really good and that know what they're doing, and it's really obvious when you go against someone that has no idea what they're doing.
Okay, so the next question is from State 365. What does Clyde and Bonnie think about the Voyager event for charms and governor gear if you compare it with Master's Collection and etc.?
It sucks. Just leave it at that.
Terrible.
Simple answer. Don't go for it. So the next question is actually divided in three parts. It's for Clyde, and I'll start with the first part. What's the mindset going for events? Do you filter based on evolution needs and thus on what to invest time and money and effort in? As for those alliance related events like Alliance Brawl Championship, for example, These are most to give all, surely controlling based on what the other alliances do, or it's just more planned slash filtered.
For me, the mindset for events comes down to a mindset for your alliance. Bonnie and I've had this conversation a lot, actually, which is like, and it's something that actually makes some people very uncomfortable playing with me or very uncomfortable being in a kingdom with us, which is I believe in being an alliance that's an end game events based alliance. End game meaning like the preeminent events that a game puts out there. And that is the focus of your alliance. So I believe in KVK and Flame Dragon. I believe in Tri Alliance and Swordland. I don't care about Bear. I don't care about Eternity. I don't care about like Vikings. I don't care about Brawl. I care about the things that like really require a team to come together, a team to work together, a team to have a plan for everybody from top to bottom to execute on the plan. And that's sort of how I filter it out, and that's how we set up MI6 in Kingdom 3, and that's I would say maybe not exactly the strategy we have in 162, but it is relatively close in terms of that. So second one on there, Soup, is do you have particular interest in keeping number one on the global leaderboards like conquests or pets or stages? No, I don't care. I've never cared about leaderboards. I think because I've been on a number of them for given time, I think people probably think I do. I I don't. I have a little bit of pride in conquest. I like to do it well, and like be in a place where I can maximize the generation heroes that I have and reach levels that a lot of people can't. But outside of that, which is more of like an internal, like how good can I be at it, as opposed to something, as opposed to a leaderboard. Like no, I don't care. And the third one on there was you seem to prefer battle participation versus prep phase winning. Is that how you check to see if a kingdom or alliance is healthy? There are a lot of ways to check on health. Prep is a decent actually measure of health, but I wouldn't say I prefer. I just prefer battle over prep. I don't, like some of these things. And sorry for anyone that's listening that's part of it, but a lot of there are two main sites out there that like rank all the kingdoms, and they give like equal participation for battle and prep, and I don't believe in that. I don't like winning prep is cool. Um, it's like winning the All-Star game in baseball to decide like who the home team is versus who the away team is. Like it's nice to it's nice to not defend, but like the battle is what you're there for. You're not there to beat somebody and who can build the most troops. Like that's not. There's nothing. There's nothing strategic about that at all.
Yeah, it's basically just save your materials for KVK and try to win the prep phase. But the most fun part is the battle phase, right? So that's what I would personally give my preference to too. So the next question is for Clyde and Bonnie. I briefly read that heroes in Generation 5 of the increments in 5, such as 5, 10, 15, and so on, are the best time to use your mythical shards. This is a sort of advice for free to play players to save up general mythical shards for Generation 5. So, for generations other than 5, just use roulette heroes. What are your thoughts on the statement, particularly as you have extensive experience in Kingshot and Whiteout Survival?
So I would throw out the like what generation, but there's maybe two things I would say here for free to play when it comes to heroes. Thing one, never use your orange shards on the roulette hero. You have enough time if you save your gems the right way and you accumulate them in your active, you can get the roulette hero by the end of and all the way through like full widgets and all. You can get the roulette hero maxed out by the end of that, generation. What I would use my orange shards for, if you're free to play, is I would use them for a hero that's either it's in one of the other two places effectively. That is what I would say is like a best in class, like very generational hero that you think you would have for a relatively long time because their skills or something about how that hero operates is just very, very different than all the others. I would actually tell you Yang is probably the best example of that for free to play. Because in free to play right now, you could have Yang, you could have Petra, and you would actually have the two of the better bear heroes at this point, and you'd be able to put together a relatively good alignment. So I wouldn't look at it as like what generation. You just got to look at it as like when does sort of like that, it's cliche to say it, but like once in a lifetime hero come along, that's the time to use those generic orange shards as a free to play.
Okay, so the next question is again for Bonnie and Clyde. It's from State 169. For low to mid spenders, which master to prioritize among the current masters? Also, based on Vital Survival, which one from the future masters will be more beneficial for low and mid spenders?
So for Masters, I think Clyde and I left WS before Masters even came out. So I have nothing on that. I think Supe is still in there, so he can give you more guidance on it. I have no idea what's coming up next. I don't really read on WS Masters because I was like, I don't care. I'm not there anymore. So I have no idea. I don't know if Clyde has read on it. I haven't.
I mean, look, I'm going to say something probably more generic. There was a question in the chat a while back that was like, what do I prioritize for governor gear, archer, infantry is free to play? And if you are free to play, the answer on that kind of stuff is very infrequently is it prioritize one thing over the other. It's actually to build out these things relatively evenly, while maybe having your favorite as the first one that you bring to the next level. And I say that because what happens, like take governor gear as an example. It's like if you bring your infantry all the way to red and leave your archer all the way at purple, the number of materials that are required to move the purple to the next level versus the red to the next level, it's just a night and day difference. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to maximize or actually minimize the amount of materials it takes to get a relatively beneficial upgrade for you from a stat standpoint. So I wouldn't like get one too far ahead of another. Um, and I think the biggest thing to do is resist going after um, expert skills that like maybe let you beat a couple of other free to pay players in something, but don't actually do anything useful for you growing your account. So like, having your arena escorts be a little bit beefier is like useless for free to play. Like your bear rally being a little bit stronger, probably mostly useless for free to play, or your bear, rally size being bigger, like definitely useless for free to play. So there's definitely skills that like don't matter, but I don't know. Best way I would say it is like I wouldn't prioritize. I would just go even, and I would avoid certain skills that just are kind of useless.
Um, all right, so last question here. So if you guys have any questions, we are going to end the stream soon. So have your questions ready in the chat and we'll answer them after this question. But before that, I would like to add in the masters section, the last question is, like Bonnie said, there are more masters. There are more economical masters for our free to play and low spenders. Like some masters give you really huge buffs for your economy based events like Alliance Championship, your Alliance Mobilization, and etc. They give you buff in the rewards and everything. So I would suggest if you're a free to play or a low spender, you are better off saving for those master. And the fourth master that was just released here, which was Cassia, she's really terrible for our free to play and low spenders. If you're a mid spender, I would say just go for level 4 to 5 skills max. Don't go above that. Save for your economy based masters, which will be coming in upcoming future. And yeah, that's for the masters. So the last question here is from state 734. Will Bonnie and Clyde be starting a new alliance in Lord Rush? This game looks great and nothing like the AI reskin. Hello, hello. Is the stream better now? Can I have inputs in the chat, please? Is it still lagging? Um, is this stream still lagging? Can someone confirm in the chat?
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Looks good.
So I think we skipped the last question completely.
On the Lord Rush, answer to be determined.
Answer to be determined, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take the questions from the chat really quickly, and we are actually running out of time, so we'll have to end the stream soon. Um, Clyde, will you, or should I read the questions?
I can scroll through and try to rapid fire some. All right, if you had to start your count over with the same amount of money and time spent, what would be the key changes you'll make? What's the tactics you use to score so much in Bear? Probably biggest changes. I likely, for even from a spend standpoint, I don't think I would have done too much different unless Bonnie and I were going to stick to our be free to play, which was initially how we were going to play this game, which is sort of laughable. So if that's not on the list, then probably not a lot. Maybe we transfer a little bit earlier so we don't get stuck having a KVK against Kingdom 2. We're doing our third one against Kingdom 6. But probably outside of that, I don't think there's too much there. In terms of tactics to score in Bear, on the individual level, it's about having a halfway decent ratio, getting good joiners, getting a mix of joiners, and then on your own account, it's just having massive, massive archer lethality. That's really not much secret other than that.
I'm actually doing Bear.
I do it once in a while.
Uh-huh.
There's one question that says, how do you handle racism in the game? Actually, quite easily. A lot of us have very quick triggers in the block feature, and if it ever happens in the alliance, we just automatically kick. We have a lot of ground covered in the alliances we've been in from all walks of life, and there's just no room for that in alliance. What else do you guys have? Let me scroll up further and see what else is up there.
Did you check the new Generation 7 heroes, Clyde?
No, I have not.
The Cavalier looks promising for the Bear. Looks like it might replace Petra.
Yeah, that was rumored to be a potential. I would assume the high stats, as long as the skills are okay, will actually be really good for it. What's the future of the core team? We try to create a mega state. I don't think we'll try to create a mega state. I mean, ours is pretty strong and powerful as it is. And transferring, I'm not quite sure on. Always a potential possibility, but like there's nothing on the list for it. I can only scroll up the last 5 minutes, so I can't see all the old stuff.
I'm seeing some in the Discord. Somebody asked
Please.
from server 1210, would love Clyde to come visit us. We're doing some big things over here. We just did our first mega bear. That's nice and all, but we can't go to server 1210.
I'm from 801. Can you please tell us which new gen hero is good for either Garrison, Bear, or both? We recently just got Long Fee, Thrud, and Vivian. This is probably the most disappointing generation of heroes that's in the game so far. Is Gen 5. You could maybe argue Gen 2, but Gen 5 is pretty rough. Long Fee is slightly better than Alcar, but not all that much better. Thrud is useful for rallies, but not for Bear, not for defense. And I've only found a handful of very niche uses for Vivian. All three are great in Conquest, so there's that. But outside like having your main march maxed, I wish I could say good things about any of them. Long Fee you'll put in your defensive garrison. Thrud you'll put in your offensive rallies. Viv you probably won't use at all.
She's a good bear joiner. That's it.
Yeah, and at that point in the game, you already have enough bear joiners that you don't need a new one.
I mean, if you're gonna get a 4-star her, and that's it.
You think higher stats allows for greater variety in heroes that you can use based on skills in situations like rallying or garrisoning castle or center on Flame Dragon Tyrant? A little bit. It definitely means you can test more things because like you're taking a smaller percentage away from your overall stats. But the game does a pretty good job of making the skills a little bit more kind of complex and a little bit stronger as the generations go higher because they want you to keep buying the new heroes and obviously want the meta to move up. So yes, a bit to that question, but at the same time, the game does a good job of making sure that's not really the case. Is Thread better in 60-40 than Margot? No. Definitely not.
As we're seeing the range for KVK is expanding, who would you like to be your future opponents?
Someone really, really, really easy like Kingdom 3 right now who is completely dead. That would be nice.
It's hardly not possible.
Yeah, we could use after a Flame Dragon Tyrant and then beating the 2 Flame Dragon winners, we could really use a KVK off for everybody to gather resources.
Yeah, 100%. My account is barely touching 1 billion resources right now.
Yeah, it's rough.
How much money is not too bad to spend
money.
monthly on these kind of games?
Yeah, I can't help you there.
0.
Whatever's within budget.
Yeah, you have to budget yourself. I think we should be good to wrap up the stream now. SR versus Clyde.
Yeah, this is the same question over. Look, who's got bigger? He just answered this, but they still keep going on about it.
Yeah, that's fine. Any others?
You guys
We
rob a
have,
bank.
yes. Hence Bonnie and Clyde. Yep.
How do you think they have both globes? Clyde was the mastermind, the planner.
Definitely a dev. Supe is getting the void in early 2027 probably?
Like 2031 probably.
Will Gen 7 Archer play Saul for 60-40? I'm assuming is what that is. TBD, maybe. Vivian did not. Vivian was worse than Jaeger and Saul defensively from everything that I saw in 60-40. I've seen some players having 5+ million troops. What's the use? Swordland is definitely one of the uses. And then if you ever get into a no rules KVK, having a bunch of troops at home means you don't need to be holding reinforcements of others to defend yourself, potentially, which is good.
Are we afraid of any kingdom? No, we're not afraid of any kingdom. It's a game.
So silly.
Is Angelo going to move to your
Guy
server?
lost 40 million troops. SR is 55 million troops, so it's not. I mean, it's not that big of a
Yeah,
deal.
there's people in WS that have way more than that. Way
Yeah,
more than that.
I think I've seen like 70, 80 million troops too.
Yeah. See anybody in? Oh,
Prep in WS is crazy.
Longfee versus Alcar and Castle is like modestly debatable. I would tell you any testing we did was relatively thin on which one was better. Which is also why Longfee is so disappointing.
why are they
What
asking
do you
us
do for
questions about
Vikings? Nobody
Angela?
reinforces you for Vikings.
You need to ask Angela. Yeah, exactly.
The
How would?
Golden
Oh yeah,
Guy,
well,
I'm sure they will add something like that to Kingshot at some point.
what should you do for Vikings? Clyde doesn't even do Vikings.
55 million T5s.
Those will melt pretty fast.
What is your definition of a whale?
Is it VIP 12? I don't think it's VIP 12. It's relatively easy to
No.
get VIP 12.
It's interesting because in some servers, the whale is different in terms of like what stats. I don't know. At this point, at least in our range of where we are in kind of current generation, I'd probably tell you somewhere around like 3,000 Mystic Trials as a modest benchmark you could use. Do we use Amethyst to attack in Season 6? No, we do not.
No. Oh my god.
Is Longfeet better than Amethyst in offense? Yes, he is. Most of the time. But yes.
At what point do you start replacing Amethyst for Ali? I think Gen
5, yeah.
5,
It's
right?
debate.
Triton is. Wait, is Gen 5 Triton? Or
Triton
is it Gen
6.
6?
Yeah, Triton 6.
So Gen
It's
6.
debatable with Amethyst and Alcar. And it's not debatable with Longfeet and Amethyst. So maybe at 4, definitely at 5.
Our organizers are Katera for Swordland, Panda for Tri Alliance. Prom does our Alliance Championship. He's really good at it. Clyde is the mastermind for a lot. Supe is our IT. Am I missing anybody? At least from the original MI6.
Have a great month ahead. Thanks, Bonnie and Clyde and Soup. You're welcome.
Just think about it now, Facebook.
Longfee is a solid investment.
Especially because he's the wheel hero.
Yep.
Uh, will Clyde and Bonnie have a baby soon?
What is that question? What the hell?
I think next year you do they do understand that we already met 86? Okay.
86 needs to face 57.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's long overdue.
Yep.
I never have. I don't know how. That's just has to happen.
Have you experimented with
Ratios
ratios and
Alliance
alliance?
Championship. No. And if you want to
No.
experiment with ratios, go to a gathering site and experiment there because it's the exact same thing in terms of what it looks like.
What's your favorite Gen heroes? None.
The next one.
A baby whale.
Sperm whale.
Always.
Yeah.
I made Soup crack a laugh perfect stream already, for sure. Always best for feeding bear in the castle. No one can defeat her.
Yes, you
Feeding
are a
bread,
hero. Which one
okay.
are you? Soup, Clyde. Oh my god. When will Panda finally promote his T5s? Well,
After they get out of the Panda will promote his T5s and they get out of enlistment. Have you tried Vivian with heavy archer formations in Garrison? Very, very briefly, and they get annihilated.
T11 or TG8 for low spend? I'd say still go for T11. Get TG8, but definitely don't say, well, I'm just never going to get T11s. Try to get them. Like, even if it takes you like a year, but try.
Get both of them. It's the best.
How old is Clyde?
Somewhere
Perfect
between
age.
20 and 50.
Will you move to Freeze's server? I don't know. Freeze's lost a couple of KVKs. He's gonna kill me for that.
What's the most I've ever been able to train?
You
I
still
did
have
about
like
3
60
million in a losing
computers?
effort to 57.
Soup refine how are you do you get each week? I do 21 and 1 each day.
If you're a hero, which one you are? I don't. That is such a weird question. That's like the question I got asked. Like, if you're an animal, what would you be? Human. Good for Freeze. It's the funniest thing that happened in your life.
Me rallying Katara, maybe.
I think it was probably me running out of gems and not being able to recall that March.
Oh yeah, for sure. And and that day, it was the first day when I saw Bonnie panicking that hard.
was like, well, because I could have kicked you guys out of the garrison, and I was like, oh my god, I have no gems.
Did 57 use the refinement trick against 3? Controversial. They did not against 3 because they crushed us in prep, but they did against 162, and I don't think any of us find it controversial. They can refine and bury their hammers if that's what they want to do with them. I don't care.
I don't care. If you were there to do, probably ER.
If you're dared to do one, which one would you do? I would do bear, honestly. It's much more chill.
Why?
I absolutely
because you like to hunt like guards and stuff. I just chill. No, we do not get annoyed when we lose prep. I personally don't care.
We save for prep. We try for prep. We do not care if we lose prep.
Yep.
Am I being dared to do one in the game for Bear Vikings ER?
You're not gonna do any of them.
I mean, I could do Vikings in the game the same way I do it not in the game, which is just don't do it.
It's smart, actually.
Sol or Hill Day for what? How do you skip prep without losing advantage when new stuff comes out? How do you skip prep? What?
Why would you skip prep?
I think with prep, it's just
skip
basically
prep.
we really don't skip prep. We plan for it. We do schedule appointments. We do all of it, but we're not gonna go crazy on a prep if we're losing. It's just a prep just determines which side are you fighting on. That's it.
The other thing that happens with matchmaking is as you win KVKs, you get matched against harder and harder opponents. And so as you win KVKs, you also end up in a place where you're going to find opponents who are harder and harder to beat in prep. So there's a little bit of
wasn't Angela interested in joining you guys? Why don't you talk to Angela?
As a mid-spender power joiner type thing, would it be a mistake to get T11 Cav second before archers? No, in fact, if you care most about KVK and helping your alliance as a joiner, you should go infantry, cavalry, and archer last. The only reason to get archers as T11 is like archers kind of like the selfish one, so you can have a higher bear score. But if you are one of the first, like let's say maybe 8 or so joiners, you want cavalry second. If you're asking that question and you're like the 15th person to get T11, you'd actually want to get archers first because your team has enough people to garrison with cavalry, and now your archers are actually better offensively.
Which event do you want Century Games to bring from WS to here? I would actually like Century Games to eliminate Bear. God, I hate Bear. I didn't used to, and then the longer I played with Clyde, he made me hate it, so it's technically his fault.
It's very repetitive.
My bad. Yeah, that's it. 15 hours a month people spend doing Bear. And we play 1 hour Tri-Alliance and 2 hours of Swordland. And that is a messed up ratio in my mind.
Is it actually 15 hours?
It's a half hour every other day, right? 30 days?
Yep.
It's a half hour every 2 days, right? So it should be 7.5 hours.
It's not fair. I think I started a rally for me. I started a rally for Clyde.
Yeah. I think about it on my farm too, but it's like either way. It's like you still play way more Bear than you spend more time in Bear in a month than you do in KVK.
Yeah, that's right.
It's weird to me.
Do you guys have a lot of drama queens in your alliance? I don't think so.
Probably a couple. Every alliance has a few.
How many hours do you spend on the game on a day? Too much.
I've spent maybe one in the last 7 days.
No comment. And then not tomorrow, on Tuesday, I have 2 ERs to do.
I hate even doing 1 ER. How
Supe
do
is
you
a
do
Zoe
2?
fan. He can't help himself.
Yep.
Well, one of them is an easy win.
Best value pack besides 99-cent pack is Buccaneers.
Vikings is only great, according to Clyde, when you have like the feast event and you schedule it at the same time. So you got Vikings coming in, you got all these lines for the tables coming in, and
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
only time Vikings gets exciting.
It's very exciting at the time for sure. Because you have something to do all the time. It's not like you're just sitting there for 40 minutes doing nothing.
I hate all events. Do you guys prefer a not peaceful nation or a nation with more battle between alliances? I think Clyde hates Snap. We've actually had one, but
Yeah, I also don't believe in like a bunch of battles between alliances. I don't believe in the number 7 alliance in a server that's 6 months old with 7 people that participate in their bear every other day, like getting votes and things. It doesn't make any sense.
at this point, after 1 year, you should have maybe 3, 4 at most if you got a very busy server. But if you have 10, that's crazy.
On that question of not the weekly packs are good buys, but if I was only getting one pack outside of the 99-cent value pack, the Buccaneers pack is the best one. The easiest way to do it is because the weekly packs maybe give you, instead of $5, they might give you $10 for this stuff. If you were like to compare it to other packs, Buccaneers will get you, it's the way to get weapons. And you can get quite a few keys where you're actually getting more like 20 plus 25 or so dollars worth of weapon upgrades out of that one Buccaneers pack. So it's a much better value pack when you equate it that way. Was your arena question about Hill Day? If so, we did. If not, you can type it.
Did you like the childhood event or the anniversary event? Is the childhood event even worth it?
No.
I think the one that is really worth it is the
For a whale,
hammering
yes.
event.
For nobody else.
Hammering event is the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, those ones tend to give you much more they tend to give you much more extra stuff.
For like every 100 days of speed up spent, you get like 10 to 15 days back. It's something like that.
Bonnie is actually now a joiner, so I have not maxed my charms. I'm not even close to maxing charms. I am a void that is a joiner now.
That's not true.
You don't like it? It is. How do y'all think what's a good strat? I think we kind of discussed that already. What's your favorite skin of all time? The one from WS. It's called Forge Town. I love that skin. I hate every other skin in here.
I would definitely replace Zoe. Whatever else you put in there is almost irrelevant. Zoe needs to go. Zoe's terrible in Arena. Zoe might be the worst orange hero in Arena that the game has.
Usual for join a hero lineup for Castle Battle will depend on what generation your server's at. And we are in Gen 6. We do not have Gen 7. And the answer is classified.
She was my first love.
Jabel was yours.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I gotta go, guys.
I'm looking through the orange heroes. There's not a worse one in Arena than Zoe. It's not close. So, yeah, she needs to go.
She's the free-to-play saver.
Yeah. All right, we're at our time limit.
All right, guys. It was a good stream, I would say. So make sure you guys join the Discord below. The link is in the description. And have a great day, great night, great evening. Bye-bye.
See you, everybody.